This
Luxury
dominance
car
represents
market is
not just a
experiencing a
statistical
growth
anomaly,
spurt.
but a
Today, as a
fundamental
leader in the
reorientation
pickup
of how
category, we believe we
commercial
are going to
vehicle
disrupt the
buyers are beginning to think about fuel options, and more importantly, how they are recalibrating the very logic of fleet economics in a period dominated by noise about electric mobility. What is particularly striking about this sudden surge of interest in CNG is not only the scale of its adoption but the timing. In 2024, when governments, think tanks, and industry analysts were still fixated on the electric transition narrative, India's auto market revealed a jarring counterpoint. For every EV sold, an average of 12.43 vehicles powered by petrol, diesel, CNG, or hybrid technologies rolled out of dealerships. This numerical reality underscores a truth that marketing gloss and media hype often obscure. That practical alternatives, particularly those like CNG that balance affordability, availability, and usability, are quietly winning in the marketplace. The divergence becomes even sharper in the commercial segment, where decisions are stripped of emotional or aspirational drivers and reduced to the hard arithmetic of operational cost, downtime, fuel economy, and long-term reliability. Unlike passenger car buyers, who may indulge in brand prestige or cutting-edge tech features, commercial fleet operators make decisions based purely on business survival. The fact that this pragmatic class of buyers is increasingly choosing CNG speaks volumes. It sends a clear, unambiguous signal about what truly works in the messy, unpredictable real world. Reports from dealerships across India paint a consistent picture. The CNG pickup has rapidly become their fastest-moving commercial vehicle. Waiting lists are lengthening, orders are piling up faster than production can meet them, and factory schedules are being reconfigured to prioritize CNG variants. Even more telling, customer satisfaction ratings are soaring. Drivers and fleet managers are reporting that these vehicles not only deliver the promised fuel savings but also hold up admirably under the daily grind of Indian roads, climate extremes, and heavy payloads. That kind of validation from the ground level is powerful. It indicates that this is not a passing trend or a speculative bubble, but a market movement with real staying power. This market success has triggered a ripple effect, forcing traditional players to reassess long-standing assumptions. Mahindra's leap into CNG is creating waves that extend far beyond its own balance sheets, pushing the entire automotive industry into a new cycle of self-examination. Diesel engine manufacturers who once dismissed CNG as a transitional technology suitable only for three-wheelers or urban taxis are now scrambling to sketch out their own CNG strategies. Companies that had confidently written off gas power as obsolete in the coming electrified era are suddenly diverting millions into R&D labs, trying to catch up. The message is stark and unavoidable. There is a substantial market hungry for practical, affordable, and scalable alternatives that do not demand the massive, slow-to-build infrastructure that EVs require. Electric vehicle makers, particularly those with their eyes on the commercial segment, are now finding their glossy value propositions under siege. The much-advertised advantage of lower operating costs looks far less compelling when CNG vehicles can deliver a comparable financial profile, fuel savings, low maintenance, and minimal downtime, without the headache of charging networks, range anxiety, or untested battery longevity in high-stress use cases. Some EV companies, sensing the shift, are even exploring hybridized approaches, pairing electric powertrains with CNG backup systems, acknowledging indirectly that their previous all-electric future pitch was perhaps premature. Governments, too, are recalibrating. Policymakers who were once rushing headlong toward electric-only mandates are beginning to pause, influenced by the grassroots success of CNG vehicles. Infrastructure investments, subsidy frameworks, and emissions regulations are being reconsidered, with many regions adopting a more technology-neutral stance. Instead of dictating one correct fuel, regulators are starting to set emissions and efficiency targets and leaving it to market forces to find the most practical pathway. This pivot is significant because it acknowledges the diversity of national realities. While Norway or California may push for pure electrics, nations like India, with vast populations, developing infrastructure, and cost-sensitive buyers, require an adaptive approach. International suppliers, sensing opportunity, are also shifting gears. Companies that had bet their entire portfolios on electric drivetrains and components are now broadening their horizons, investing in advanced CNG technologies, fuel injection systems, optimized storage cylinders, and lightweight composite tanks. The meteoric rise of Mahindra's CNG pickup trucks is more than a commercial success story. It is a profound reordering of the automotive landscape that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about technology adoption, customer behavior, and the gap between industry hype and ground-level reality. For years, the world has been told a simple tale. Electric vehicles are inevitable, their adoption unstoppable, and their dominance a matter of when, not if. Governments built roadmaps, investors poured billions into startups, and automakers from Detroit to Tokyo shifted their strategies to align with the presumed certainty of the EV era. But while the spotlight glared on Teslas and BYDs, a quieter, more pragmatic revolution brewed in India, where the auto market has always been shaped not by abstract ideals but by the cold logic of economics, infrastructure, and necessity. Mahindra, an automaker known for its rugged tractors and utility-first vehicles, saw what others missed: that the small business owner running a delivery fleet, the farmer hauling produce to market, the construction worker transporting tools, all needed a solution that was cheap to run, quick to refuel, reliable under punishing conditions, and supported by an infrastructure that already existed. Diesel had long served this role, but rising costs, environmental crackdowns, and urban restrictions made it a liability. EVs, on the other hand, remained aspirational but impractical, too expensive upfront, too slow to recharge, too dependent on a fragile electrical grid, and too unproven over long distances in extreme heat or remote terrain. CNG, by contrast, emerged as the overlooked middle path, cleaner than diesel, vastly cheaper to operate, with fueling infrastructure already expanding in Indian cities, and crucially, compatible with the rhythms of commercial life where every minute of downtime translates into lost income. Mahindra doubled down on this insight, designing pickups and light trucks optimized around CNG, and the results were nothing short of transformative. Within a year, commercial CNG vehicles outsold electric ones by more than 12-1 in the commercial segment, a figure so lopsided it silenced the argument that this was merely a transitional blip. Dealers reported unprecedented demand, with waiting lists stretching across states. Workshops that once specialized in diesel retrofits pivoted to CNG maintenance, and small-town entrepreneurs began opening private fueling stations to capitalize on the wave. Stories emerged that crystallized the shift. A fleet owner in Uttar Pradesh who slashed operating costs by 40% by switching his delivery vans to CNG. A farmer in Maharashtra who doubled his weekly trips to wholesale markets without worrying about refueling delays. A logistics startup in Gujarat that expanded into new districts solely because Mahindra's CNG trucks allowed for predictable operating margins in regions where EV charging stations were non-existent. These were not isolated anecdotes but emblematic of a larger pattern. A bottom-up adoption curve that did not wait for government subsidies, glossy marketing campaigns, or Silicon Valley endorsements. And the shockwave spread quickly. Tata Motors, long the diesel heavyweight, accelerated development of its long-shelved turbo CNG platforms, while Maruti Suzuki, which had hedged its bets with hybrids, now shifted resources to expand its CNG offerings. International players, from Toyota to Volkswagen, who once dismissed CNG as a cul-de-sac technology, quietly began negotiating partnerships with Indian suppliers of fuel systems and cylinders. Even energy giants noticed the shift. India's gas distribution companies announced massive expansion plans, not just in metro hubs but in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, ensuring that fueling access would no longer be a bottleneck. What makes this even more significant is the geopolitical overlay. In Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, where per capita incomes mirror India's and where electricity grids are unreliable or underdeveloped, policymakers began studying the Indian CNG boom as a blueprint for their own transport transitions. The possibility of a CNG bloc emerged, a coalition of emerging markets that leapfrogged not into electric dominance but into a decades-long era of affordable, gas-powered mobility, cutting emissions relative to diesel, while sidestepping the capital-intensive EV infrastructure trap. For Western automakers and their investors, this was a rude awakening. The billions poured into battery factories and EV startups looked increasingly misaligned with the actual needs of billions of drivers outside the wealthiest 10% of the world. The philosophical lesson was as sharp as the commercial one. While Silicon Valley celebrated disruption through futuristic concepts, Mahindra achieved real disruption by listening, observing, and solving immediate problems with practical technology. This inversion of the innovation hierarchy, where customer-first pragmatism outpaces technology-first idealism, may mark a new chapter in industrial history. The irony is striking. The West framed EVs as the moral high ground. Yet for many in the global South, CNG represents a far more realistic pathway to both economic survival and environmental progress. If Mahindra's trajectory continues, the implications could be staggering. The EV timeline could be delayed by a decade or more in emerging markets. Hybrid CNG systems could evolve as a dominant bridge technology. Global energy flows could tilt further toward natural gas, altering OPEC's leverage and redrawing the map of fuel geopolitics. And perhaps most unsettling for the champions of electric inevitability, it raises the possibility that the clean transport revolution will not be defined by a single universal technology, but by a mosaic of region-specific solutions, with CNG standing as a powerful reminder that progress is not about chasing utopias but about mastering the realities of the present.